Hello everyone and welcome to our live lesson today. My name is Bethan Edwards and I'm the Academic Director here at Specialist Language Courses. And in today's live lesson, we are going to talk about Listening C and we're going to focus on tips and strategies for keeping your place in Listening C. So today's session is being recorded, but feel free to take notes or to take screen grabs, but please know that it's being recorded and we will upload this onto our YouTube channel after today. Please come and take a look at our YouTube channel where you'll find lots of free OET tips and strategies, which are really great when helping you prepare for your OET exam. So come to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see lots of helpful hints and tips to help you with your OET. So today's live lesson is on Listening C, and our next free live lesson is coming up on Wednesday. So next Wednesday on the 12th of January, which will be with Joe. And Joe will be looking at reading C skills, focusing particularly on comparing language for fact versus opinion. And you'll be able to find the link to register for this session in the chat box now. So just click on the link in the chat box to register and join Joe to look at reading C if you haven't signed up already. I'd also like to tell you about our recent update to Reach OETB. So Reach OETB is our online course that you can sign up for and use in order to help you prepare for your OET exam. Now this now includes 4 live lessons a week. So if you buy Reach OETB, then you will have access to 4 live lessons a week that you can register for and join us talking about the different papers of the OET each week. You'll also have access to some more than 40 OET Joe videos and 2 full practice tests that will help you if you're coming up to your exam, which are particularly good for your time management skills. All right, in today's session, we are going to talk about Listening C, keeping your place. Specifically, we are going to have a review of the Listening C format. We are going to look at how you can keep your place in interviews, how you can keep your place in presentations, and then we'll also do some Listening C practice with you today as well. All right, so Listening C. So the format of Listening C, as you may know in OET, the listening paper has 3 parts, A, B, and C. We're focusing on C today. So Listening C. You have 2 audios and 2 tasks. So you have a presentation and an interview. Each audio, so each task, has 6 questions, and these are 3-option multiple choice questions. These are spread evenly through the text. The first question, so it's important to know this, the first question starts at the beginning of the listening, followed by the next question, and so on. What this means is you need to move from one question to the next as you listen, and you won't be required to go back to any previous question. So it is chronological. You move on through the questions. So keeping your place and knowing how to keep your place and when to move on to the next question is really a key skill in being successful in OET Listening C. All right, so we are going to come to our first task for today. So we have a poll. So I'm going to show you 4 questions about Listening C, and I would like you to decide if they are true or false. So we're going to do this on the poll. So I'll show you the questions first, and then I will launch the poll where you can choose your answers. So question 1, you should read the questions only in the 90 seconds reading time. 2, in interviews, the questions on the question paper may be different to the questions in the audio. 3, in presentations, there are no pauses in the audio between questions. And 4, Listening C questions will always be about the speaker's view. All right, so I'm going to launch the poll now, and I'd like you to make your choice, true or false, for each question. All right, let's go. You should be able to see that poll popping up on your screen now. All right, just a few more moments to choose your answer. All right, so I'm going to end the poll there. All right, and let's take a look at your results. So interesting, so there's quite a lot of, there's no real consensus in our poll today. Interesting, okay, so let's take a look at our suggested answers. All right, so question number 1 is a question about your test strategy. So remember that for listening C, you've got questions and options. So we recommend that you should try to read the questions and the options. So you should read the questions and options A, B, and C. If you only read the questions and not the options, then it will be more difficult for you to follow the talk and answer those questions. So make sure you read the questions and the options. Number 2, the questions on the question paper may be different to the questions the interviewer uses in the audio. This is true. So don't expect to hear exactly the same questions as you can see on your question paper. And in fact, sometimes the interviewer may not even use a question, they may use a statement, which we're going to look at a little bit today. Question 3, in presentations, there are no pauses in the audio. So I noticed a few of you put true for this. If you have OET C listening experience, it may feel like there are no pauses, but it is false. There is often a short pause. It's not a long pause. It will not be a really long few seconds, but there may be a short natural, there should be a short natural pause between questions as the speaker moves on to the next topic. And number 4, listening C questions will always be about the speaker's view. This is false. Now, it could be about a patient's view, a relative's view, or another healthcare professional's viewpoint or state of mind. So not all of the listening C questions will be about the speaker's view. If it is a doctor speaking about a particular topic, then it won't always be their view. They could tell us about other people's views as well. All right, so we've had a look at some questions. So let's move on to look in more detail at the audio. So as we've seen, you hear 2 types of audio in listening C. You hear an interview and you hear a presentation. So let's have a think about what you can use to keep your place in the interview. So in the interview, you can use the questions to keep your place. So you can use the questions as a cue or a tip or an indicator that the speaker is moving on to the next question. Therefore, you should move on to the next question in your on your exam paper. So for example, you might have something like, did you notice anything in particular after that? And then the presenter starts talking. So what can you use? So write your ideas in the chat box here. For those of you who've got listening C experience, what can you use to keep your place in a presentation? Put your ideas into the chat. As you're listening, what is it that's going to give you the clue that the speaker is moving on to the next topic if you're listening to a presentation? So we don't have questions. There's no interviewer to ask questions. So what can we use in the audio to help you keep your place? How do you know when you're moving on to the next question? Okay, so we've got a couple of suggestions here. So we've got, if you've already answered the question, yes, that's a great answer. We've got the pause, absolutely. Again, there can be very brief pauses, so just be aware of that. But also the other key fact is signposting phrases that quite a lot of you have identified here. So signposting language. In a presentation, the presenter needs to guide you through their presentation. So they need to use signposting phrases to let you know when they're changing topic or when they're moving on to the next point. And it's also important to notice that these phrases are slightly different to linking phrases that you might have in writing, for example. So we've got phrases like after that, following the initial stage. One of the things I was concerned about was. All right, so let's take a look at keeping your place in an interview. Okay, so we have got some questions, 31 to 36 on the screen. And we're going to have a look at what the audio is. But before we do that, the first thing I'd like you to do is I would like you to read through these questions, 31 to 36, and tell me, what do you think is the topic of this interview? Write your ideas in the chat box. What is the topic of the interview? Okay, good. All right. So our main topic, as you can see from that very first question, our main topic, we're talking about amputation. Then we have a look and we still, we can see that that Dr. Sands talks about the missing or phantom limb and gives us details about that. And then we also see that she talks about, Dr. Sands talks about treatment as well. So we've got our main topic here. So notice that some of these are questions and some of these are sentences that we need to complete. So let's take a look at the interviewer's questions or statements, and let's have a look and let's match them. All right. So we have got extracts from the audio A to F. And what we want to do is have a look and see what exactly is it that the interviewer says to show us that we're moving on to the next question. So let's do number one together. So in number one, we need to look at some keywords. So we've got, how did the young patient called David react to the amputation of his leg? So we need to focus on perhaps what does she say about what does the interviewer ask about young patients, or what does the interviewer ask specifically about David? So if we scan through quickly, we can see that actually we can't see the name David here. So we're looking for information about a young patient. So if we come here, we can look at F. So here, how do younger patients tend to react to it being amputation? How do young patients tend to react to amputation? So we can match question 31 with this statement from the interviewer in F. All right, so I would like you to take a few minutes and again in your notebook, see if you can match your questions from the question paper with the extracts from the audio. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that and make a note in your notebook. All right, so where you have more than one question on the same topic, look for a signposting phrase that perhaps introduces the topic to help you decide which topic, for example, on treatment, which extract matches with the first treatment question. Okay. Great, so we have got 32. What does Dr. Sands suggest about pain? in a missing or phantom limb, we are looking at E. She is introducing what's called phantom limb syndrome. She's introducing it. So 32, we have E. 33, we have a follow-on question about phantom limbs. So here we're looking at D. Then we move on to treatment. So we're looking for a statement, a signpost, or a question to introduce the topic of treatment. All right, so we've got C. I understand you have a treatment trial going on. Notice there's no question from the interviewer here. It's a statement in order to move the speaker on. Then we have more questions about the current trial and the patients. So we look for another question. So here, okay, we're looking at 35, we're looking at B. How did you set about treating the patients? And then advantages up here. So let's clear that and take a look at the answers. Here we go. So it is important to notice that it's not always a question that the interviewer asks. They may just make a statement to encourage the presenter to keep talking. So it's a good idea when you're preparing for your OET to make sure you look at the questions and you look at the transcript when you're practicing. All right, let's move on to look at keeping your place in a presentation. We've mentioned that pauses are important and signposting is important. So we again have some questions from some OET questions. And we are going to take a look at some examples of signposting language and see if we can match them. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to take a look at these questions, read through, and predict what topic. What do you think the topic could be? This one's slightly more tricky. So pop your ideas into the chat box. What do you think the topic of this listening is? Great. So as you can see, you've spotted HS. Yes, it is. What area of medicine are we looking at if we're looking at HS? Who do you expect to be speaking? Excellent, dermatology. Great. So we're looking at a dermatologist speaking. All right. So here are your signposting phrases. So take a look at the signposting phrases and take a few moments to see if you can match these signposting phrases. Notice there can be more than one option for some of them. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds to look at this and just make a note in your notebook. There's no need to write in the chat box. And then we will take a look and move on to our listening practice for today. All right, so let's take a look at our signposting phrases here. So for question 37, when describing the condition, Dr. Cooper suggests, so we've got phrases to signpost that we're describing. Let me tell you about, and then more details. For 38, we're looking at a cause. One cause may be resulting from. So we don't know exactly what causes HS. This is our signposting phrase, and it seems to be linked to, and you need to listen carefully as this will give us the answer. All right, 39, let me tell you about one case I encountered recently. 40, we're looking at treating, for the people who treat the patients, they need to be aware. So when treating patients with HS, it's important to be aware, and additionally. For 41, we've got in another case and then more details relating to the mother's attitude. And then 42, we've got an extension of treatment. So when it comes to treatment and a control diet is recommended. All right, so let's take these linking phrases, and then let's take a look at a few questions together. I'll show you these linking phrases again in just a moment with our listening practice. All right. So we are looking at dermatology, and we are going to listen to a dermatologist called Jake Cooper. So it's always a good idea to have a think about vocabulary relating to the topic before you listen, as this will activate your brain ready and prepare you for listening. So we have got some language here, some key phrases relating to dermatology, and we've got some definitions here. So take a few moments to read through this information, and then we'll take a look at those definitions before we listen. Now, when you're doing your OET Listening C practice, it's a really good idea to make notes on key vocabulary relating to the topic. So we'll look at this quite quickly today, but then when you come to review Listening C papers and topics, then it's a good idea to make these notes and learn these phrases if they're new for you. All right, so we've got abscess, which is a swollen pus-filled lump. We've got acne, skin condition. Boils are hard and painful lumps. Blackheads, small black or yellowish bumps. Cysts, a fluid-filled lump. Pus is a thick yellow or green fluid, and skin follicles, a small hole in your skin that contains the root of your hair. So in your OET practice, it's a good idea to make a note of this to then help you understand when you're listening. All right, so let's go on to our listening practice. A quick reminder of our strategy and approach. The first thing you should do is look at the context, read the questions carefully. So we've looked at the context, it's dermatology that we're going to be looking at today. And we've had a quick look at the questions, and we'll do more in a moment. You should read the options carefully, notice the differences. Listen for the correct option and why the other options are not correct. Remembering that the words in the questions and answer options are likely to be different from the audio, so you should be prepared for this. All right, so here are our questions. So let's take a look at some of our keywords in the questions. So 37, when describing the condition, Dr. Cooper suggests, so notice this is a suggestion, may not be directly stated. It is fairly common, so should be more accurately diagnosed. Is this Dr. Cooper's opinion that it must be more accurately diagnosed? Is it to do with if the condition presents more uniformly, so if it was the same in everybody, it would be better understood? Or is it C, incorrectly treated due to misinformation from patients? In 38, we're looking at causes and what this cause results from. Is it shaving, deodorants, or smoking? 39, we're looking at a case with Sophie. And again, Dr. Cooper suggests that. So does HS get progressively worse? Does a diagnosis of HS need a full patient history? And is a multiple treatment approach necessary? All right, so here's a little reminder of those signposting phrases for each question. So now we are going to listen. All right, so I see some of you have written the answers, but please make sure you listen to all of it before you pop your answer in the chat. All right, so listen to 37, 38, 39, make a note in your notebook, and then we'll share our answers. All right, let's listen.
Hello, my name's Jake Cooper. I'm a dermatologist, and I'm going to talk about a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa, commonly abbreviated to HS. Let me tell you a bit about this condition. HS is a chronic inflammatory disorder characterized by painful swollen lumps on the skin, which may break open, releasing fluid or pus. It's also called acne inversa, and in fact, sufferers often think they've got acne or pimples. But unlike acne, HS affects apocrine gland-bearing sites, in particular the armpits and the pubic regions. It's not a very well-known disease in the medical community, which is surprising, as it affects about 1% of the population, and early occurrences are commonly misdiagnosed as simple nodules or abscesses. This is unfortunate, as the condition can be very distressing for the patient. We don't know exactly what causes HS, though it seems to be linked to blocking of the hair follicles in the affected area. It tends to occur most often in younger females, and it's often found in patients who are overweight. Studies carried out into a possible link between deodorant use and HS have so far been inconclusive, but the condition is more prevalent amongst smokers, and there's some evidence that nicotine may affect the follicles. Patients sometimes worry that they've caused the condition by shaving, or possibly by using depilatory creams, but there's no evidence that either is a contributing factor. Let me tell you about one case I encountered recently. This was a 22-year-old woman called Sophie who came to see me because she had a number of painful boils in her groin. These had been occurring with fluctuating severity for the previous 3 years. When I questioned her further, I learnt that she'd previously undergone incision and drainage of various lesions on multiple occasions at various medical centres. She also told me that she'd taken a course of an unknown oral antibiotic to treat an abscess about 2 months earlier. So I was able to put 2 and 2 together and make a connection with HS. Then we could start to think about the right sort of long-term treatment for her.
All right, so let's take a look at those answers and also the transcript. So for 37, our answer is A. So 37 is A. Let's take a look at why. So we've got our signposting phrase, let me tell you about this condition. And then he talks about it's not very well known. Remember, we're looking for his attitude here and his opinion. And here we find that he thinks it's surprising that it's not well known because in his opinion, it affects quite a lot of people. And it is unfortunate. So these 2 adjectives here are helping us understand that he thinks it's a common condition and it should be more or accurately diagnosed. We need to take a look at why the other ones are not correct. So the misinformation is not from patients, but there's misdiagnosis. And he talks about how the condition presents, but he doesn't talk about any comparatives here. It wouldn't be better if it presented more uniformly. 38 is C. So we have our signposting phrases here, and then we take a look that the condition is more prevalent, so is perhaps more common amongst smokers. So this is our lead-in, and then we have this other information here that there's evidence that nicotine may affect the follicles. We also need to notice that why the other 2 are wrong. So we've got shaving. There is no evidence that is a contributing factor. And for deodorant, the studies are inconclusive. So that's not the right answer. In 39, we need a diagnosis. So it's B. So we have our signposting phrase. We have the details about the history and then his own conclusion. He uses an idiomatic phrase here. I put 2 and 2 together. So I put all of this information together to draw a conclusion. Notice that HS has a tendency to get progressively worse. This is not correct because he mentions that she has fluctuating severity. So it goes up and down. It doesn't get progressively worse. And then the multiple treatment approach is not necessary. He gives us information about Sophie's history, but he doesn't suggest that it's necessary. All right, so our top tips for listening C and keeping your place. Notice the signposting phrases and short pauses in presentations. Be prepared for the questions in the audio to be different to the questions on your question paper, but still pick up those keywords to notice when the interviewer is moving on and use the interviewer's questions and statements to keep your place. And also use the transcript to notice the difference between the audio and the questions and signposting language. All right, so we've now got a few moments for questions. So if you've got some questions on listening C, please pop those into the question and answer tab and question and answer function on your Zoom toolbar. We've got time for a couple of questions, so if you do have some, please pop them in there now and we will do our best to answer them today. So any questions you have on Listening C, just pop them into the Q&A now. So we have somebody taking their OET perhaps quite soon in January. So good luck for your OET coming up very soon. Okay. So we do have one question here, how to complete the questions on time, because I'm always short of time to finish it. So I think we've answered that today. It's really important for you to practice your strategies for keeping your place. So make sure that you follow these strategies to keep your place, to go on with the questions in Listening C, making sure that you don't miss any. The other key thing in Listening C is if you miss a question, move on. So don't get stuck on one question, move on with the interview, move on with the presentation. Otherwise you risk missing more than one question. So if you suddenly realize that you haven't heard a question and they've already moved on to the next one, move on with them. All right. Thank you very much for coming along today. So please don't forget to sign up for our next live lesson, which is on Wednesday, which is reading C skills with Jo, and she'll be looking at comparing language for fact versus opinion. You can find the link in our chat now. Also, please remember to follow us on social media channels. You'll be able to find plenty of videos and tips and ideas, and also more information about on any other events that we have got coming up. If you don't already have any of the SLC products, we have some great courses and courses to help you with your preparation. So we've got Reach OETB for nursing and medicine. So this is a great course if you want to practice your understand the format of OET and also get plenty of practice with vocabulary and grammar that you need. If you particularly want help with writing, we have a correction service where we give you full feedback on some OET letters, and we have our OET practice test as well, which is great for time management when you are coming up to the exam. So thank you very much for coming along today, and it's been great to speak to you today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.